welcome back. We had a great Christmas. We hope you did too. Dolphins, fins up, two fins and one star. Back for another episode.
I don't know what you did, but that was not a fin.
That's a fin.
That
Fins
that's
up.
We'll run the tape back.
fins up. That's
Fins
what
up,
they need,
baby.
Roll the clip.
That's what
Uh, championships are in the books for some leagues. Other leagues, this is championship week, so lots of information to cover from last week. Man,
I was gonna say. The two games I won last week in my playoffs were both semifinal games. So I have a championship in two leagues this week.
nice.
I just won a championship, and so I'm gonna be bringing home a belt.
Oh man, I'm
Let's
excited to
go.
see it.
Yeah, you need
Can't
to.
wait.
Yeah, that better be on the shoulder for an episode.
Oh, every episode. Until next season, baby.
So for all those that have been closely watching, the Pro Football Pods League has officially finished. Austin, me, and Hulk all made it to the playoffs, as well as our cousin Alex, who is a listener of the show. So I guess if you listen, then you'll do really good. Weird how that works.
It's weird how that works. And what you finished the season
that's what it
13-1.
takes.
13 and
13
1.
and 1.
13 and 1.
But hey, I was a 4 seed or 8-6 on the year and went to the championship. I'm not
Happy
mad at my
with it.
boys at all. I'm glad. I'll take the silver. Shout out. They're all getting, they're getting little, second place rings for the whole team.
What I'm most impressed with is how much points I've scored in these leagues. It's like 200 past everybody. I might not be in first place, but like I'll be in fourth, but I have 200 more points than everybody in the league. So it's like total points scored.
That's tough.
That's the story of everybody has their best week against you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That league in reality was the one league that I thought was my worst draft because I didn't realize until halfway through that you could only have one running back. So I got like Rachaad White and Jahmyr Gibbs and
which ended up highly benefiting you for the people that didn't draft many running backs.
Exactly.
You still got the flex spots, so those are really valued in.
Which is what I was able to do. Jahmyr Gibbs was starting to put up 20 points a game near the end of the year, especially those weeks that David Montgomery missed. Big time.
Hey, that was the league that I went wide receiver heavy, and I was able to get Raheem Mostert in like the 11th round.
Such a steal.
It was like where ESPN did this like fantasy recap for you at the end of your season. It showed you like your biggest steal. And I didn't even realize it was the 11th round. I was like, I snagged him that late. And he ended up being pretty much my RB1 all through the season because Aaron Jones was out most of the year.
So what do you guys think won majority of these leagues? Do you think it was receiver heavy teams or running back heavy this year?
I honestly think that the teams that were capable of getting Puka Nacua and or Kyron Williams in the first week, they immediately became playoff teams. Like those guys had so much production.
Well, I think also the teams that, took the gamble on Jahmyr Gibbs early on in their draft.
Yep.
And these
not
Bijan running backs.
If you took Bijan in the first round,
no,
probably
Bijan.
10th.
But these certain running backs too that have shown value all year, much more their value is just being healthy. Like
David Montgomery.
James Cook is a great example.
And Rachaad White was another 4th or 5th rounder.
White.
Oh my God, he just blew up in the second half of the season. So I think that's what it was. I don't think it was a particular position. I think that it was more just about after the draft being able to find those value picks in the first couple weeks of waivers. It was weird for me that after week 6, maybe even week 8, it didn't feel like there was really a big splash player that you were able to pick up that was going to make a difference for you. Like you needed to get your guys early in the year. You needed to spend your fab in the first 4 weeks because everything after that was kind of useless.
A lot of value I found was picking up Kamara and JT because nobody was putting any value on those names.
Yeah,
and then you were able to get them in the 5th and 6th round.
Yeah, that's something that
for fantasy this year.
I think definitely looking into going into next year is these guys that are projected to be hurt like the first few weeks of the season, so their value tanks. But then whenever you get them back, you're getting an elite player. So
Yeah.
I mean, but there were some guys too, like Michael Thomas, to where he kind of had that same factor, but he
He's
just
done,
came back
man.
and showed,
He'll
yeah,
never
he's
get
just not
drafted
the
again.
same player. One thing I will touch on that I noticed this season, I feel much better about drafting tight ends next season.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily having to jump on one in the first 3 rounds because
Yep.
there's such a drop off. Like to me, there's 6 to 8 like fantasy relevant tight ends for next year.
You know what it
Like
was?
just off the top of my head, Kelsey, Kittle, Laporta, Hawkinson, which
Ferguson,
Hawkinson with this injury, Ferguson,
Schultz,
Ingram, Waller, Schultz, Mark Andrews,
McBride.
Isaiah Likely has value. McBride, yeah, like Michael Mayer, like all these, their tight end position is going to be very deep next year. To where I think it's going to be kind of like a quarterback strategy, to where if you don't get one early, you're fine to wait because there's not going to be that much of a drop off.
Those are the good stacks to work on.
So the gap
Tight end
I
queen bee.
noticed got closed a lot more this year, as far as like you
I f-
had Kittle, Kelsey, and Andrews, and then there was a drop off to like the next couple guys, and then a major drop off to the next set. Whereas now I feel like everybody's kind of, going more towards, the middle. Because even Kelsey's had a slight downgrade this year.
I feel like backup quarterback issues kind of helped with that situation for tight ends.
Yeah, I
like,
think that
with how much backups like to target them.
that's so
Mhm.
huge. And they also developed. I
Great
think that a
point.
lot of them were second and third year guys that were able to like step it up. It generally took 3 to 5 years, right outside of a rookie contract.
David Njoku.
Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews didn't have a ton of value at first. He kind of came along. He was a blocking guy, and then he just became more and more a part of their offense. I think that Laporta is not going to be the new rule where rookies are able to come in. I think that he's the outlier. So
I mean, we knew that would happen. He's from Iowa.
So
They're
like
just
Brock,
Except for
Iowa
Brock
tight ends.
Bowers.
I was gonna say Brock Bowers from Georgia. Maybe we'll see.
That's-
But that guy
no,
looks
Brock-
ridiculous.
Brock Bowers is legit.
But he's the
bro.
only one. He's the
No,
only
Brock
one that
Bowers-
like next
Brock
year.
Bowers
Nothing much to
legit
really
might
stop him.
be a top 10 pick next year.
That's what I'm
100%,
seeing.
I
with-
will-
especially
will
with the
not be
value of
shocked.
tight ends this year. I mean,
Not
Pitts
even that,
was
but like
already,
I will
right?
not. I will
He was
not
a
be
5
shocked.
or a
Look
6,
at these teams.
something like that.
4.
Carolina. Now I know Carolina's number 1 pick is
They
going
got
to
Tommy
Chicago,
Tremble.
but Carolina would be a great spot for him. You give
Yeah.
that safety blanket to Bryce Young. He's got the blocking ability to help the young quarterback as well, with a team that kind of wants to establish the run a little bit. So like that's the kind of teams I'm looking at for a guy like
Chargers.
Brock.
Chargers are 5
That's
and
a
10
top
right
5
now.
pick, wouldn't it be?
Chargers are 5 and 10.
I could, but
and
with Gerald Everett, like, is that what you're
Yes.
going to spend your top 10 pick on?
Gerald Everett's
like,
not
that's
a
my thought.
playmaker.
Like
It's
that
not even just
defense needs
Everett.
so much work.
Yeah,
They
they're
have,
not
like, 5
supposed
tight
to.
ends that they've
I
rotated
can't
in
wait
and
to
out.
get into the draft this year.
Another one's the Broncos, 7 and 8.
Broncos, they would be a
looking for
great
new
spot.
QB.
And Titans 5 and 10. They
As
need
much as Sean Payton wants
for
to
their-
use the tight end.
for their
Yeah.
young quarterback, give him a safety blanket next year to deal with. I'm excited for the draft. I've already been kind of starting to look into next year's players and starting to formulate my who I like and who I don't like. The running back class seems really weak. Like there are not a lot of running back prospects that people are excited about. The top 10, the top
is.
tier, like the guy from Michigan. I think there's 2 actually
yeah.
coming out of Michigan that are supposed to be pretty good.
Sir.
But there's like one other that's as highly rated as like these LSU receivers, the Ohio State guys, like some of these receivers and quarterbacks coming out. That's
Really
where people
good
are seeing the value.
O-line class.
Yes, which is huge. We need that so bad.
Really good O-line class. Yeah, and like you said, that's just, I mean, yeah, it's not exciting for fantasy. How does that help me? But you look, especially for dynasty purposes, if the quarterback you have gets a top offensive guard or tackle in the draft, well, that's probably going to help your quarterback stats, which in turn are going to help any receivers on that team. So like there is a trickle down effect to stuff like that as well. So offensive linemen are fantasy relevant.
It just not on your team. Now, this past Christmas Eve, Rudolph shone his nose so bright and made sure to light up the Bengals. 290 yards passing for 2 touchdowns. Mason Rudolph I'm pretty sure that they only played him because it was Christmas. They were just like, listen, if he's gonna be good, this is the one weekend that he should be good the whole season. Let's just go for it.
I mean, he
was
played.
Pickens.
Yeah,
That man turned into a monster.
He did
Well,
2 long touchdowns.
I was gonna say 6 targets, but he turned that into 4 receptions, 195 yards, 2 tutties. That's Randy Moss style stats right there. That's
Yep.
insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, for Rudolph, my thing is, you look at that stat line and it's like, well, holy hell, has Pickett given us a stat line like that all season? Like just once?
No.
No.
So that's
No.
the other thing that's interesting. Last year, whenever the Steelers
Small
played the
hands, remember?
Bengals,
0
I think
turnovers. That's the
played-
big thing right there too. 0 turnovers.
He would do so well in the 49ers is what I'm getting at.
So the Steelers only
Like-
put up 30 points one other time in the last 2 seasons. They put up 30 exactly to lose to the Bengals last year. So my question really is this like the page turning for their offense? Like they fired their offensive coordinator.
I'm not willing to go that far.
So I'm still also very cautious. Their running game scares me. Pickens seems like he's got value, and I'm definitely interested in
Okay.
looking his way next year.
Let me throw this out there to you with all the breaking news that's been coming out now with Russell Wilson and the Broncos situation, and he's more than likely getting cut. With
He's
Russell
35.
Wilson being a savvy veteran quarterback and Mike Tomlin, being just a savvy veteran coach.
For the culture.
I know their personalities might not necessarily mix together very well, but those are the type of teams that I'm looking at for Russ to go to. A team that knows they're not in the top of the draft to get one of these top 5 quarterbacks, because the Steelers are going to be right there in the middle like they are every single season.
Yeah.
And you obviously Pickett's not the guy going forward. I highly doubt Mason Rudolph all of a sudden is the guy going forward,
No.
regardless of this game.
But who would you have starting backup? Pickett or Rudolph? Who has shown you like you would start as your backup?
I'd start Rudolph. Like if you're having a predominant passing offense, which is what after getting rid of Matt Canada, what they're trying to go to is run, play action pass. Like to me, that's more in Rudolph's wheelhouse, whereas Pickett is mobile. And I feel like he leans on his mobility a little too much to where he holds the ball a little too long.
I think that Russell Wilson
tough
is still
situation.
35 years old, and I'm wondering if I don't want to say he was a system quarterback, but obviously Pete Carroll did everything he could from the moment that kid was a rookie to build around him. These teams like the Steelers, they have a couple pieces, but I don't think Pickens is better than all of the receivers
we
that
also
Denver
got-
has.
Russell Wilson, I mean, for as great as he was, I mean, as young as he was, went to 2 Super Bowls. Like, we got to think that defense, all his offense had to do was put up 17 points,
Yeah,
and you
'cause they-
probably won.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very
And
good
with
point.
Marshawn Lynch, like in his absolute peak of his prime,
Yep.
to where you can lean on him for 25 carries a game. Like, that's my thing. A lot of Russell Wilson's, like, for as good as he was, a lot of it was overhyped because he was just the quarterback. He had all this early on success.
It
and
was
that's
the
kinda
little
why it
spin
started
move that he
to-
had.
Yeah, but it was kind of like that's why it started to rub the defensive guys on that team, like Richard Sherman and stuff, started rub them a type of way. Pete Carroll started rub him a type of way to where it's like, no, this isn't Russ's show. Like, we have the Legion of Boom and like a coach who's able to galvanize an entire team. Like, so
That's a very
that's
good
my
point.
thing with Russ. I get what you're saying though. He is 35, so I mean, back to the whole overall point, Rudolph, like I said, I don't see this being the norm for him going forward. We're seeing guys like Jake Browning and Nick Mullins averaging 250, 300 yards passing out here because teams are just letting it rip at this point in the season. But there's a reason these guys are in the position they are as backups.
Now, we talked about the Bills-Chargers game last week on the preview, saying that the Chargers had an opportunity to take out the Bills. They had the head coach fired, Buff, where they get the interim head coach coming in. So all the guys are going to be motivated. We also said that their roster was strong enough to potentially take on a team like the Bills. I thought they had it in them. Easton Stick honestly played his heart out. I think Austin Eckler's dead. I think that he's irrelevant as a player, and he doesn't exist anymore. He's next year if he's taken before the 5th round in drafts, like he is way overdrafted, way overdrafted. He's gone.
You think it was him and not the whole offense in general? Like the
I think that his
O-line, like
explosiveness and bro, they are the highest paid offensive line in football. They have pieces on that offensive line, and maybe it was
maybe
all
they're
Staley.
good pass
But
team,
Staley's been
pass
there for
block.
3 years. Austin Eckler's
Now,
best
I
years of
will
his
Yeah,
say,
career
gone.
were with Staley.
He gone.
I will say, Austin Eckler, like rushing the ball this game, it was a nice little surprise to see him go 15 carries for 65 yards. Because a lot of times this season, you've seen him go 15 carries for 23 yards.
Yeah, 35. Like he's
So,
very
but
inefficient.
I do see what you're saying. Fantasy wise, I feel like if anything, this will knock him back to being drafted accordingly. Not necessarily 3rd or 4th round, but late 1st round. If you got, an early 2nd, mid 2nd round pick and he's sitting there, I don't see why you don't pick him up just because of the receiving value he's going to continue to give you.
When you watch his tape, he's not as explosive as he used to be. I think that okay, Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler are actually like the same age. And whenever you say that out loud, it's like, well, Austin Eckler's got 3 or 4 more years. Look at Christian, man. Look at how good this guy is. But Christian was that good right away. And it wasn't just that he was efficient. You can give him the ball 25 times a game, and he's going to get the numbers every time. It's not 1 or 2 plays. So I was a big Austin Eckler lover. I was able to take him in the 6th round in my dynasty like 3 or 4 years ago and won 2 championships off of it. I do not believe in him anymore as a player. I'm moving on from him. I'm going to let other people draft him, and I'm going to try to take guys like Tajay Spears, who's going to be the Titans' #1 running back next year, in like the 3rd or 4th round. If people are going to be willing to take him in the early 2nd, late 2nd, I'll let them.
So speaking about Tajay, where do you think? Well, speaking about Henry, where do you think he'll be going next year? Because he's definitely not staying in Tennessee.
I think Henry's going to be the latest signing that we see, like similar to the Ezekiel Elliott move, where he kind of like looked around and waited for his opportunity and then just took what he could get. I think Derrick Henry will be one of the last additions to a team, even maybe a Leonard Fournette
I think this
situation.
year kind of showed you, like with Cook's situation, you don't want to wait too long. Like he
Well,
wanted
you just
to go
don't
to
want to choose the
Dolphins.
wrong team, bro. The
Yeah,
Jets.
it wasn't Dalvin's
the-
situation wasn't that he waited too long. It was he took the Jets' offer of more money than going to the Dolphins.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
so
the Dolphins
but
offered
like
him.
teams are
Like,
gonna
they had an
fill up.
offer out there.
That's the thing. But like they weren't desperate enough to really want him.
I also think that Henry has a lot
Well,
of
they
value.
also knew they didn't really need him.
That's what I just said. They
Like
weren't
they were
desperate
willing to pay him. No, this is your value as far as what we plan on using you for.
Yep.
And he wasn't about that. He wanted his value based on what he had done in the past. And it's just, yeah, that's not how it's going to work out on your second contract, bro.
I don't think Henry will have the value unless he's a bell cow. I think he'll be a phenomenal Jamal Williams last year. I think that that's what we can hope for from Henry, where he'll be the guy that when you get within 20 yards, you give him, a couple carries because he'll be able to punch it in, but you're not just working him from the 20s in the middle of the field. Like,
If he goes to the Ravens, I could see him being worked and used in that way. Like their run scheme is so good enough.
That's
he
not a
has
bad
to go
call,
to a team
Austin.
with their run scheme good enough.
they love
do
to
that.
run the ball, and
The
they
Ravens would
have.
be a scary team with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's a
Really
very
would be.
good call.
Especially if he came in with the mindset of don't really plan on getting the ball in between the 20s, but once we get to the 20, it's all you.
Yeah, he's gonna get 6 to 10 touchdowns.
Like we're gonna save your body. Like you're not gonna take all these hits throughout the game, but when we need you the most, that's when you're gonna come in and help us out. Now, kind of, going on to another game that I want to touch on. Obviously, if you had Amari Cooper or Joe Flacco, congratulations on winning your game or your championship, because that was just absolutely insane. But the Browns right now are in contention for the #1 seed in the AFC.
They've had 4 quarterbacks
which is
and like
nuts.
3 running backs.
Told y'all it's gonna be the best division.
Which is nuts
Good
to
call.
me. Like, well, the fact to me is like they look better without Deshaun Watson.
And
Like these games
Yeah.
with Joe Flacco, they have looked
And
better
Chubb.
than any game they had with Deshaun Watson. Now,
Stefanski
granted,
for
Flacco's
coach
out
of the
here
year.
throwing it 42 times a game.
Stefanski for coach of the year is nearly a lock. I don't think
If-
that there's anybody that's competing with him at this point, except for maybe Mike McDaniel and like
Dan
just
Campbell.
really really good teams. Dan Campbell's a good call too. Bring him to the
First
playoffs.
division
Raiders,
title.
But
Raiders,
they've had a healthy team. They've had Jared Goff all year. They've had Jahmyr Gibbs all year. They've had Amon Ra all year.
True,
Like,
but it is
their whole
first
defense is-
division title in
30 years.
30 years.
That's what pisses me off, man. I don't want it to be the storyline. I don't want that to be why someone wins the awards.
But it is
I want it to be
what it
because
is.
what they contributed was
It carries a lot of weight.
it does.
But-
I feel
no,
that.
And for-
he
For
does
what
contribute
everybody
a lot
says,
to the
all
team.
all of these awards, defensive player of the year, offensive player, MVP, all of it, unless you just absolutely dominated throughout the entire season, like Tyreek, pretty much has offensive player of the year locked up.
Yep.
Christian
He's
McCaffrey
creeping
is
on
going to give him a strong push for it. But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Tyreek probably has that locked up. Now, MVP, we are seeing, is coming down for the most part. We think Lamar's got it, but it's coming down the
Lamar,
last few weeks
C-Mac.
here.
It's
'Cause-
I would
Lamar,
say.
Brock,
McCaffrey,
and Tua.
Tyreek. Well, not
Brock
even
Purdy's
Brock.
still
Af-
in
it anymore.
Now, after that 4 interceptions,
He
He's-
dropped.
Brock's
Okay,
out.
one of those interceptions was Brock Purdy's fault,
It's
guys. Let's be
Lamar,
real.
I understand.
You can't throw it
I
right to their
understand
hands. It hits their hands, goes up in the air, and
Okay,
like
but
that-
you got to realize all of these voters are not watching every single. They're looking at
if
stat
they didn't
lines,
watch
they're look-
Monday Night Football on
Listen.
Christmas.
So you've got Tua, Lamar, Tyreek, Christian McCaffrey. I'll throw Brock in there. I'll throw Dak in there.
Yeah,
That's
that's
in there.
Now, but that's my thing is that is still essentially wide open for that. Same for coach of the year. If the Dolphins win these next 2 games, I think Mike McDaniel has it locked up. If the Browns make a push for the 1 seed, I agree. I think Stefanski locks it up. Like, so
If-
there's certain awards like that to me to where to me it's still up in the air going into the
It's
final
crazy
couple
that
weeks.
it is up in the air with 2 weeks left. You would think we would know by now.
There's
I mean,
been a
we
lot
have
of
a
parity
select
in the
few
league
guys,
this year.
but,
Like
like,
so many teams are just like neck
8
and neck.
and
with
7,
each other.
7 and 8. It's so much fun. Like
Which we'll
these-
get into that for the preview episode. But yeah, Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper, what they put up, do they scare you though as a team like going forward, or is this just a product of they haven't really played difficult teams? They played the Texans without CJ Stroud, like things like that.
I'm happy that it's very unlikely that the Dolphins have to play the Browns in the first round. Even if it's in Miami, I'm really, really happy about that. We were talking about it in the pre-show that the Dolphins getting the ball out as quickly as they do is why defenses aren't really capable of stopping them from just doing what they want on offense. I think the Browns defense is built to stop the Dolphins very well. Their pass rush is phenomenal. Their linebackers are phenomenal. I mean, every level of their defense, whenever Denzel Ward's there, he is going to lock down somebody. Now, Tyreek is not a guy you can lock down. Nobody is fast enough to do that. It takes a whole team working around it. And we saw last week where Tua was able to get the ball out to Wilson. That's Cedric Wilson that made all the difference. Also, the tight end Durham Smythe killed it in the first half.
No, I agree. The Browns are definitely a team like you don't want to have to face in the playoffs.
Now in the
I got
NFC,
the answer.
Sorry,
I got the answer on why Amari Cooper had such a great game. The safety was out for the Houston.
gotcha.
Petrie?
Now
So he just
Stingley
ripped
was
up
on
over
him.
the top.
Stingley was on him like
Yeah.
half the game. Half of those catches were
But
over Derek Stingley. Now he also got a pick or two because he's that good. I think my interest that from the NFC side, I think that just like the Browns, the Buccaneers are the same type of. Their offense is
Bucks
sneaky
and
good.
Rams, bro.
The Rams
They're
too, but the
gritty.
Rams aren't sneaky good. Everyone knows the Rams are good. The Bucks, man. If you
I
guys
feel like the
don't
Bucks,
win your
everyone knows they're
division
good.
and you end up having to play the Bucks in Tampa, are you guys afraid of that at all? Like for the Cowboys, do you think that like you're gonna have problems? Obviously, playing on the road isn't a strong suit for your team in general. This
We have to fight
defense
him on the sea or on the land.
is so good. Now,
I
luckily,
would
you
feel
guys are
fine
good in the
about it.
pass.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The Bucks are trash versus the pass. Like that's a game where CD could easily go for 200 yards. Ferguson could
And
go
we-
for almost
Now,
100 yards.
on the opposite, if you guys win the division, I think the Bucks beat the Eagles, bro. The Eagles have to run the ball to have value. They can't just
Yeah.
feed it to AJ Brown.
And
They're
the-
not good at
and
it.
the Bucks shut
Jalen
that
Hurts,
down.
whenever he's down, does not do very well.
Do the
and-
push tush versus Vita Vea.
It's actually a really good matchup for them.
Try
It's like a
try
kryptonite.
me.
Like, come on.
So yeah,
The
I'm
one dude that stopped it is on that team, Vita Vea.
yeah. That's
Vita
what
Vea.
that's what
Yeah,
that's what I was
I
just
said.
saying.
Like,
that's what
That dude's a
gotcha.
freaking. That's a
If you can take out
black
the tush
hole
push,
right
you
there.
take out literally 10 plays of their entire game.
Now
Yeah.
the Jaguars, dude. The Jaguars look like ass. It looks
Trash.
like they're about to lose their
Yeah.
division. Like they're about to.
Yeah.
They had it locked up. They were like
Lawrence can't stay healthy for.
It's part of
anything.
it. I mean, that's
Every
what
week.
it is.
I
He
mean,
plays.
the
But
Colts,
he's
Jags,
hobbled as hell.
and Texans are all 8-7 right now.
All of them.
Come on,
And
Colts.
CJ Stroud returned to
up.
practice this week.
Yep.
So like he is on track to be coming back. Like I don't think the
Yeah.
Jags win the division.
And
I
they're
think
in
the
Houston this
Texans
week,
have
too.
a great chance to steal
They
it.
have the
They're all
Titans in
getting
Houston.
healthy right now. Like their whole team's coming together, and Singletary is doing great. So like
Pierce
and
is looking
Pierce,
good. Like
Pierce ran for a touchdown.
That
that's what
98
you
yarder.
like to see. When the starter goes down, everybody else steps up their game. Like
Yeah,
they
it's-
lost to the Browns, but you put up 22 points on that defense with Davis Mills.
And we've been
This
talking
year
about the
made-
Browns. They're
Made
good.
me
Well,
have
I guess
two new
they-
favorite teams.
You
And
know,
it's the
take away
Raiders
some
and
of that because
Houston.
a kick return was a touchdown, but still.
The way the Raiders and Houston play this year are just like they fly around.
They're just dogs.
It's so fun to
Just
see.
a bunch of dogs out there.
But these new coaches, these old players coaching, that to me is some of the best like coaches you could have. You seeing it. Mike McDaniels didn't used to be a coach. He was a ball boy, but
So
Dan
I do want to
Campbell.
talk about, like you mentioned, how the Bucks can beat Philly. I want to talk about Philly, and on the flip side, who I think is their AFC kind of counterpart in the Bills, where the Bills, with an Easton Stick led team at home. Were they at home?
No, they were on the
They were
road.
on the
That's someone
road,
we
but
didn't-
still, with an Easton Stick led team, you only won that game by 2 points, and the Chargers don't have home field advantage. Like,
Nope.
there's no home field in LA.
Not in LA now. There's too many
So,
people there. Too many fan
My
bases.
thing is, okay, you did what you needed to, especially on the Bills side. Like the Bills, they are in the playoffs already right now. They're having to win every game right now to stay alive. But if I'm a Bills fan, I'm still nervous as hell. Like honestly, the Bills are one of those teams as
think
well.
every
Like
team should
you
be.
don't want to see Josh Allen in the playoffs because he'll just go Superman on you real quick. But I mean, as a Bills fan, is like it's one of those to where it's like, do we want to make the playoffs? Like, are we just going to make the playoffs and get like brokenhearted because we're going to go out there and lose by 3 points? Like, I don't know.
I
I
feel
feel like
you.
at this point in the season, like that's just one of those games, even for Philly versus the Giants. Like, I feel like those are games like you need to make a statement, like more for yourself
They did
going
the
into
past
this
5
part of the
weeks.
season.
And that's just how teams are. They're so up and down in this league. Is there one team that you're confident about? It was the 49ers, but after getting beat by the Ravens the way they did,
in San
Bro,
Fran. That
they-
was the hard part of
they
that.
had to sit Brock. Like the defense got exposed by the Ravens. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Hamilton,
I still think they're solid, but there's not
Hamilton
one
is-
team I'm like,
It's
this
crazy
team's
good,
gonna win
dude.
the Super Bowl.
Kyle Hamilton could be one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the league. Like he's just every game that you watch, you only have to
Rookie?
watch. I think he's second or third year player. You only have to watch like 5 plays of them on defense to see Kyle Hamilton make a play. You could any
Kyle
5 random plays.
Hamilton is what we thought
14.
Jamal Adams was going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cardinals lost to the Bears. I
Yeah.
think that's
To be
hilarious.
expected.
Do you think
Yeah.
that
The
I
Bears
think
are on a
that
tear right now.
the Cardinals are like the only team at the top of the draft that looks like they're going to get a chance at Marvin Harrison. Like it looks like no one else is even going to get to take them because they're going to have to take a quarterback. Do you think that that guy actually makes a huge difference in that team and has a bunch of values, a 1,500 yard
Bro.
a year with Kyler? Because I
What's
think
his name?
Kyler's got a rocket of an arm. I think he's good
What's his
quarterback.
Who?
Marvin-
Marvin Harrison?
Marvin, who
Harrison
his dad
Jr.
used to play in the league for this team.
Well,
Come
that's what I'm
on
saying.
now, bro. He's a dog.
I'm saying, do you
He
think the
is
Cardinals though,
serious
like
talent.
that's because
Yes, it elevates them because Kyler can run around in the pocket in the backfield for however long he wants. This dude's gonna get open. Like
That's a
they're gonna
good
be able
call.
to connect. It's a solid built receiver. He's had these short little dudes to work with.
yes, that
Hollywood
you're
and
good point, dude. Because
Moore
I didn't
and-
realize that Marvin Harrison was 6'4", like 210. Like he's not
He's a
some
dude,
skinny
bro.
little Devonta Smith looking guy.
He's like
He's
CeeDee Lamb.
yes, he's
Mhm.
prototypical, and he's got the size and the speed because he's been trained to be an NFL receiver since he was in diapers.
Right up.
I can't believe that the Chiefs look as bad as they do. Do you guys think that they
was
lose
what
in
I
the
meant
first
by
round?
nervous teams.
Do you think they lose in
I-
the first
They
round?
should be nervous.
I don't feel good about them in the
Yeah.
first
There
round.
it seems like there's no magic over there. happening.
Well,
they're falling
we'll-
apart.
we'll end with this. I'm going to ask you guys a question. So I've been seeing a bunch of videos, people saying that if Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for Washington, was still with the Chiefs, would the Chiefs' offense be saved? Would that be,
You know,
which is so much disrespect to freaking Andy Reid? Like Andy Reid is the reason that
Well,
offense
it's
was
not
ever
even that.
great.
Eric Bieniemy isn't all of a sudden going to become a elite wide receiver out there. Like
Thank you.
Rashid Rice has become like a nice
Only guy.
surprise, and
He's
he's
probably
come
top
on
20 in
throughout the
talent.
season. Yeah, he's come on throughout the season and everything like that. But you're just seeing like Mahomes is just outside of Kelsey and
He's
what's
getting
becoming
old.
Rice. He doesn't trust anybody else. Which
Why would you
rightfully
trust
so.
Tony?
Exactly.
It should be Justin Ross.
Rightfully so.
That should be the next man up.
So for me, it's not necessarily really the play calling. Like the offensive line, it looks like Mahomes is out there running for his life a good bit. Also, I think we're kind of seeing he's relying a little too much on his playmaking ability. Like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily 3 steps, hit your back foot and let it rip. Like he's 3 steps. Oh, what do I see here? Let me try to run around, make a highlight play real quick.
Yep.
And I don't know. To me, it just seems like you're doing too much. Like with the talent you have, you're just trying too hard out here. Like if that even really makes sense. Like how do you try too hard? But it's that's my thing. And he's whining a lot. Like
I
he's
know-
just
I know his
constantly
receiving
whining and
core,
looking
so
at the
I
refs,
don't-
just throwing his hands up. Like I don't know. It's one of those. Like I feel like him and Kelsey both are just ready to be done with this season.
There was a play where he either dove or slid, and like a player was going to the ground and like landed on him, and then he comes up looking at the ref. I hate that. It just reminded me of like whenever
Josh Allen
NBA
does it too.
was turning into like the flop meta where everybody was flopping for fouls. Stop
just say
trying
LeBron.
to get the penalty. Stop trying to
Bro,
get it. If it's a penalty, they'll call
I
a penalty.
watched
But
an
like, dude,
entire 3.5-minute highlight clip of Josh Allen flopping.
oh my god,
And
he's the
looking
worst.
at the ref throwing up his
He's the
and
worst.
Patrick. But that's the thing though, is aside from like like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, like these type of guys, like these mobile quarterbacks who get popped all the time, they're not looking at the ref constantly whining. But like
Nope.
you've got these other guys who are just put on a pedestal by the league that realize, oh, if I whine, I might not get the flag right here, but he might throw the flag next time because
Exactly.
he doesn't want me to whine again about it. Like just yeah, like you said, it's just dumb. I hate to see it. I don't feel good about the Chiefs in the playoffs at all, unless they luck out and get to somehow play like the Jaguars or the Colts. But even then, like against the Colts, I don't know because you're going up against Minshew Mania.
Well, you guys got anything else to add?
it for this
Happy
one.
holidays.
It's another great episode in the books. We've
Happy
actually
New Year's.
we've got a new sponsor that's going to be coming out pretty soon, so we'll have some new information for you guys on that in the coming weeks. Make sure you go to Tulsi Rose at tulsirosetea.com for all of your tea needs. A bunch of holiday flavors on sale this week, 25% off. Use code at ProFootballPod. And make sure you guys
we
check
have
us.
a code now?
For what?
No,
You
not
use the
really.
code
Oh.
for what?
Damn.
10% discount?
I was about to say
No,
that's
it's 25% off all the holiday teas. But thank you guys. We'll see you on the preview episode later this week. Until next time, peace.
Awesome. Hit you on the flippity flip.
Hell yeah. Man, I love that mixed berry mango, man.
Mixed berry mango coming at you.
Dude, did you guys try the Tuscan Afternoon yet?